All right, we are in the club today. I'm your host, Chris Jager, joined by Myra Haley, and of course, our guest, Stephen Johnson, Vice President of Marketing at Marksman Titan Security Group. Welcome, Stephen.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I think it's always interesting to hear people's backgrounds and how they find themselves in the roles that they are in, and the groups that they're with. Tell us a little bit about kind of Marksman Titan Security Group, what it's all about, and what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are one of the largest security providers in the United States, providing both guard security services as well as electronic security services, training, site consultations, basically a one-stop shop for everything security. And we're in 30 states. Wow. Across the country, and we're headquartered here in the Chicago area, and then major markets across Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Lauderdale, Vegas, LA, Detroit.
I would imagine there's some strategy to the cities that you find headquarters within.
To say the least, yes.
Wonderful. Well, Stephen, how did you find yourself at Titan Security Group or Marksman Titan Security Group?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually headhunted to find myself there. So
Gotcha.
They were looking for somebody to come in and lead the way on marketing and essentially be a one-man band to get everything ramped up. And back then, that was a little under 4 years ago, was a company that was just in 3 states. It was just Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. And
that's incredible.
Here we are, tripled in size in terms of our revenue, and multiply the states by 10, and it's a brand new ball game now.
And you're busy.
Yes, to say the least. We're very, very busy.
That's exciting. I think anytime you've got growth like that within the organization, I mean, that's one, you're doing something right.
Right.
And two, an incredible opportunity to tell an awesome story.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the way that we do things is significantly different than what the industry has kind of kept as the status quo. And so being able to project that in everything that we do, both from our branding as well as just the general services, we're a people company. Without the people, we have no company. That's ultimately what it is. And, being able to drive that messaging all the way down and just have it trickle down to everybody within the company, over 10,000 employees now, is ultimately the key to continuing the growth of what we've experienced here.
Well, and I would imagine, you get that growth in revenue.
Yeah.
It's probably a large growth in employee count also that comes in that time span.
Very, very much so. It has gone from about 2,100 to 10,000 in that time frame too.
How impressive. How do you onboard that many people?
Thankfully, we have some very good HR team members who are well equipped to do that. And I mean, it's wild. We do orientations twice, sometimes 3 times a week. And it is a full house every single time it happens. They got to go through everything. They got to check all the boxes that they need with the specific state licenses. It's a lot, but we've got it down to a science, and it's working.
Sounds like it.
Well, and I would imagine you mentioned the different state licenses, the creating consistency across the different states that you have.
Yeah.
That's got to be a challenge in itself. Making sure that experience is the same for everyone.
It definitely is. Especially we went through a major merger back in August that brought the Marksman side and the Titan side together under one umbrella. And so, obviously with every merger, there's certain things that one side does that the other might not do, and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And like you said, make sure that it all fits, that it all sounds the way that it should. Mm-hmm. We're still on that journey, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but we're learning a lot about ourselves where we say, okay, we weren't doing things really great the way we were doing them, but they are. So let's adapt. Let's take the best of both brands, bring them together. And that's with literally everything. There's no, siloing off certain aspects of the company to make sure that, we're doing what needs to be done.
I love to hear that because we work quite a bit with higher education, in my day-to-day at least, and there's oftentimes silos that happen.
Yeah.
And so trying to get in front of that and break down those silos, I love that that's where your mindset's at when it comes to creating consistency and getting that message out the right way.
Yeah, and ultimately, that's my biggest thing is communication. If you're not communicating, you're not doing your job effectively. That will always
Isn't that
be
the truth?
that will always be one of my biggest pet peeves. But it's nice where every day I'm meeting with ops, I'm meeting with HR, I'm meeting with our security operations center, I'm meeting with finance. No group is off limits to how we need to communicate and make sure that we're doing what's best, not only for the company, but also for the people who put their trust in us to keep them safe. Like, that's our job.
That is true.
I think it's so important within an organization, especially with the growth you're experiencing, is to always have everyone on the same page. And it goes right back to everyone has to hear the same message, experience that message.
Yes.
So delivering that is such a key, but sometimes challenging thing to do.
It definitely is. And, we have seen a lot of opportunity to continue to bring that together, new values within the company. What do those mean to us? Because I think we both kind of came in, pre-merger that we would, have these values and we'd have those values. And now coming together, talking about transparency, talking about unification, the things that, push forward to really work hand in hand with not only our coworkers, but again, our clients, and making sure, they want transparency. They want to know that, we're not keeping them in the dark, and that they can rely on us to do the things that we're there to do for them.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you mentioned, the values. Are there certain core values that you've worked to identify post-merger now, that like these are the things that we gotta have, or is that still a process in the works?
It's still a process in the works right now. We're getting there. There have been acronyms that have been thrown out, and you're just like, that's not really something I want to think about every day. But we're getting there. It has been a solid path. We've had a lot of conversations, a lot of very healthy conversations about that kind of stuff. But really, it all kind of revolves around accountability, transparency, staying united on all fronts and making sure that we're all here for the same reason. We're not just here to, lollygag and be here for a paycheck. Right. Things like that. We all have to believe in the mission. If you don't buy into the mission, you buy into the message, it's going to be harder to operate at the size that we're operating at.
Yep. No, and even for ourselves, as we continue to scale and grow, we have 6 core values that we've identified, and they bleed into everything we do.
Yeah.
From how we engage with clients, how we go to the marketplace, how we help each other internally. Having that in place, it's been, I think, a foundation for us to build off of, for sure. So for yourself, Stephen, you've moved into a little bit of a new role here to start the year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What has that transition been like, stepping into the vice president role?
It's been interesting. There was a lot, when I first came on board there with Titan. Like I said, we were a very small company. I was running everything by myself from a marketing perspective. And really up until the merger occurred, that was what it was. And even today, it's a team of 2, which includes myself. And so really it's been looking at what the bigger picture is. And now that we are so spread out, and we need to think about the mindset of, we're not just Chicago and the Midwest anymore. We're now national. And just because something works in Chicago doesn't mean it's going to work in Florida. And being able to adapt, perfect is a bad word. Let's put it this way. The tragic floodings that happened in Texas. We need to be able to put out information, safety information related to, what to do in these situations. Same thing with the forest fires that occurred out in California. Do we have safety share information based on that? Are we equipping our teams with the right communications that they can share with their clients, their employees? And it just shifts. And like every day, it's like there's a new situation going off that we need to address.
And I would imagine in the service that you provide and the industry that you have, you got to be able to act fast, and you got to be prepared.
Yeah. And that's the big thing in my mind. And I personally feel like this comes from like more of my journalism background is like, I am all about deadlines, and I am all about being quick, concise, and strong in communication. Like those need to be everywhere with everything that you do. And especially in our industry where it's people want to know if a riot happens down the street, where's it going? Like, what do I need to do to protect my property, my people, and keep them in, the right mindset to know that they can rely on us to get them the information. Like specifically Chicago, very busy this time of year.
Sure.
A lot of protests, a lot of events. people want to know what's going on. And so one of the things that we've really built out is these weekly and sometimes daily alerts, like the Democratic National Convention being in Chicago here last August, daily updates on, hey, here's where all the protesters are going to be. Here's where this is happening. Right. Here's where that's happening. And so just having them rely on us as that subject matter expert has been huge. And it all falls into that bucket and making sure that you're checking those boxes.
Well, and I would imagine we'll use that as a great example. So a national convention like that, you're going to have people coming in to whatever city that your services are being used within.
Yep.
That now you've got to understand what that dynamic looks like. That's just a lot to manage and be in front of.
It definitely was. And I mean, it was something that we talked with our clients about for probably almost a year, where it really started, where we're meeting with the major building and management associations. They want to know tabletop exercises and trainings to best prepare if, there's a bomb threat, or again, there's a riot, or there's something that disrupts their service, potentially harms their safety. And then from there, also holding sessions with each client group specifically that walks through similar situations based on their properties and what they're expecting to happen, and really just arm them with the knowledge so when it's game time, they know what's going on.
Yeah. Now, Stephen, you mentioned your background in journalism and how that kind of set the foundation for your expectations and communication, and how you just have to have consistency there. If you rewind a little bit, though, you got a little bit of a background at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. We have a shared background coming from Rockford, Illinois. Shout out to the 815. But when you look at your roots, coming from Rockford, the city that is, and coming from your education at UW-Whitewater, how had that kind of laid the starting stages of getting into a career in marketing?
I'll say this about Rockford. It gets a bad rap in a lot of ways for those that are in the area. And it has that big town but small town feel to it, where everyone kind of knows everybody in some shape or form. And there's just that local aspect to it, where it's not like, a city like Chicago where you're just kind of like fighting for, who you are, and no one really cares around you. And I think it shifted from Rockford to Whitewater, whereas again, like a smaller school where there's more like understanding of like everybody kind of knows everybody, and you kind of
sense of a community.
Exactly. A sense of community. You develop that personality where you just care a little bit more about things. And, obviously people in bigger cities, I'm not going to say you don't feel that way, but I feel like it was a lot easier to adapt, in both of those environments, and be able to just kind of understand a little bit more from a hands-on approach how things come together. And so it just kind of grew from there, I guess. And, it's a weird path, starting in broadcasting, making your way to marketing. It's not the straightest
I don't
road.
think anyone ever has like a true straight line, though, in their journey.
Yeah.
When you think, though, on your time in broadcasting, it's a great point. How have those experiences, and you think about how you tell a story, how has that skill set transferred into now you're telling marketing stories, you're telling a brand story for an organization? Yeah,
and I think it's a big thing, and I will forever plant my flag on the fact I think broadcasters and journalism people make great marketers. I will forever believe that. They understand deadlines. They understand how, like you said, how to tell a story. Like I'd have to go on TV and say, here's my 90 seconds, here's my 60 seconds, here's my 30 seconds. I need to get the point across. I need to make sure that what I'm saying makes sense, and do it in a clear and concise manner, which is what marketing ultimately is. Like if you don't have a clear message where people can't understand what you're trying to say or what you're trying to sell, it's not going to work. Like that's just what it is. And then not only that, but again, the communication aspect and being able to bring, more of that understanding that, you have to have that personability to, work the correct avenues to accomplish a campaign, or work with third parties, or just be strong as a collaborator.
Sure.
It's something that I think has honestly helped me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely the mindset to have with it. And you think about how, at the end of the day, the personality that you're working with, whatever the team structure is, that's where I think that message can come through, and you think through ultimately how you're telling that story and getting the connection to the right audience. You have to understand who are we talking to? How do I craft this to tell that right story? And to me, my experience growing up in Rockford, that community aspect, you got to know the people. You got to know ultimately how am I going to reach them? And I use that today, all these years later, where that foundation's been laid and it all connects.
I was just going to say that you also have to know that how you speak to one group may not be how the next group understands you, or even within groups, like having to be able to explain something in multiple different ways.
Exactly.
That everyone can hear you, because not everyone can hear what's happening.
And I think one of the challenges then too is accepting the fact you're not going to reach everybody and please everybody, and just always have to have that in the back of your head. And that's the hardest thing I think to manage from a marketing lens. Because that's where your mindset is. Like, I got to reach everybody. I got to tell this story exactly the right way. And there will be times where you don't do it.
Right. And, it's tough. And I think that's a thing a lot of people struggle with. And I think myself is included in that, is like, you do, like you said, you do want everybody to like you. You do want everybody to react positively. But that is such a pie in the sky
For sure.
mindset that you will never be able to reach. And you just need to honestly level the bar to, okay, some people are just going to hate whatever I do for whatever reason. They have their reasons.
Yeah.
You're entitled to that opinion, but you just have to do what you feel is best and go out and make the results you can make.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, which is a little off topic.
Okay.
What
That's
do you
allowed, Myra.
Yeah, but it aligns with what we're talking about. What do you think was your favorite blooper while you were broadcasting that you made?
Oh, boy. Do I have to say it's a favorite, or can I say most memorable?
Most memorable, for sure.
Oh.